Hey everyone, it's your girl Maddie, aka Beaver Mosh, and today I have the pleasure of being joined by Torsten from Brainstorm, whose latest album, Plague of Rats, is coming out on Raining Phoenix Music on February 28th. Torsten, thank you so much for taking the time to join me. How are we doing? I think it's evening there where you're at.
Oh yeah, it's early evening, so
Yeah.
it's quite cold. Still winter,
Yeah.
so but I'm doing fine. It's busy doing my job promoting the album. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, something new about this record that we should talk about right away is that you are on a new label. You're on Raining Phoenix Music, and I'm wondering what has been the transition for your band, and how are you enjoying your new label home?
Oh, we definitely enjoy it very much.
Yeah,
It's yeah, it's as as in all of our lives. Sometimes plans change, and our former record label AFM had many changes during the last year with all the plans for the label and distribution and whatever. So we had some talks because we have been 15 years
yeah,
releasing albums through AFM Records, and so we decided to go different ways in a very friendly way, which is very cool. So and we know the Reigning Phoenix guys for very, very long,
yeah.
and uh, everything feels familiar. They're very close to where we live. In addition, so it feels good. We have dedicated metal people
Yeah.
doing metal music on a metal label. So what more can you wish for?
And Raining Phoenix has an insane roster, just some amazing bands that you get to be a part of, and kind of be on the same roster and team as, and that must feel really good for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Um, I believe maybe I miscounted, but I believe this is album number 14 for you. Um,
Yes.
as a band that has been making power metal since the 90s, do you believe there are still things to explore and ways to push power metal as a subgenre at this point in your career?
Oh, yes, definitely. That's
Yeah.
we're trying to do that with every album.
Yeah.
No, it's where we come from. As I said, we start the first album came out 1997.
Yeah.
I guess nobody was interested in power metal back then.
Yeah.
It was grunge and all that kind of music. And I think everything started with the first Hammerfall album,
Sure.
which came out the same year. And all of a sudden, power metal was back in focus again. And that felt great, and we got the chance. We released it on a small label, the first album.
Yeah.
But we had the chance from the first album on to go on tour. So that felt great. And for us, we always try to improve, of course, as songwriters, and it's kind
Yeah.
of a natural process. Uh, um, but we're always trying to stick to our roots. Just look to the left and to the right as far as it is okay, in our opinion, to see what borders can we cross. But we're definitely a traditional metal, power metal band, and
Yeah.
that's what we ever will be. So, but there are still so many, even new bands, that sometimes it seems like a wonder when you have when you have 12 notes and you have millions of songs. You know
Hmm.
and all of them are different, and there's so many great melodies and songs that still are written every day. So
Yeah. You mentioned your first album in 1997. That would have been Hungary.
yep.
Um, when you put that record out, back in 1997, was it in your mind at all? Did you think that you all would still be putting out music, almost 3 decades later?
And I don't think you can look forward in time that much.
Yeah.
It's we have been young guys, and everybody's dream was to become a rock star and
Yeah.
play the big stadiums. And nothing of that happened.
Yeah.
But we still have a good going career. We're welcome everywhere we play.
Yeah.
and we have a very loyal following, and especially in our main market in Europe, we do very well. The last album was the most successful album we ever did.
Yeah.
And we had a chart entry in the official album charts at number 12, which was amazing,
Yeah. Especially for
and
a metal album. Metal doesn't typically, crack the top 20,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's from the Soul Temptation album 2003. It was every album was in the charts.
Yeah.
So yeah, and we're still going on tour with every album, and our arenas are just a little bit smaller.
Yeah.
So, but it's
Yeah.
okay. It's so much dreams have come true, and
Yeah.
so many other bands would be uh, uh, lucky to even have that what we have.
Yeah. Um, that's a fascinating, and a kind of commendable, perspective you have there. There are bigger bands, but there are smaller bands, and we're very happy with where we're at. Yeah.
Yeah.
um, so I've heard the album, I have listened to it. And when I'm listening to it, I do find it, particularly heavy. I find it particularly aggressive. There aren't many moments in Plague of Rats where things are kind of taken down a notch. Was that intentional? Is that what you wanted for the album, going kind of when you're putting it all together?
Um, we don't plan that much, or at least we try not to plan that much.
Sure.
When you when you start songwriting for an album,
Hmm.
it's of course the start is very well. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
And when you're in the middle, you start thinking, oh, maybe one fast song is missing or one epic track is still missing, and then you're trying to focus. But most of the time, the more you plan, the less it happens.
Yeah.
That's what that's my experience. And for Plague of Rats, one very special thing is that we had the album cover at a very, very early stage of the songwriting.
Okay.
And for me, when I saw the cover the first time, this was kind of like a kickoff for me in the songwriting. And I think I looked at the cover, and 10, 15 minutes later, I had the riff for Garuda. So
Yeah.
the cover was very, very inspiring.
Sure. Do you know who did the cover?
Oh yes, Gyula Havansak is a Hungarian cover artist. He does an amazing job, and we did
Yeah.
the last three albums together with him.
Yeah.
So he's incredibly talented, and uh, uh, there's no limit. It seems like.
Yeah.
Everything, every idea you bring up is like, oh yeah, we can do that.
Yeah. I look at the cover and yeah, it's great. It's like I get the sense that like maybe this person's very inspired, but like it reminded me of like a classic comic book almost, like that type of art style. And it works really well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
It definitely deserves to be a vinyl cover.
Yeah, 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 yeah. How long did it take you to write this album? How when did the process start, and when were you kind of like, okay, we have the finished product now, let's record it.
Yeah, it's usually it takes us about, let's say, a year
Okay.
until we're finished songwriting and all that stuff. And well, Wall of Skulls was September 21,
Yeah.
and this time it really took 3.5 years, which is not the usual period. Usually it's 2.5 maybe, but when we released Wall of Skulls, uh, we had the COVID-19 pandemic thing going,
Yeah, that affects a lot of
and
bands.
like everybody else, and
Yeah.
we also had to postpone the tour for 12 months. And of course, we tried to do well. We cannot play live shows, so write new songs. But it's not the usual process.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel right when you say, "Oh, now I start writing songs." It's not like now I'm going to eat pizza. You have to be in the right mood.
Yeah. Well,
And
go for it.
yeah, and so this is, in my opinion, why it took a little bit longer than usual. We
Yeah.
went on tour 12 months later, and due to the success of Wall of Skulls, we did many, many live shows.
Yeah.
We had two summer festival runs, and so it doesn't feel like 3 years. And all of a sudden, it was the end of the summer festival season. It was like, okay, now we're done with that album. Let's write new songs. So, but usually it takes about 12 months. So,
Yeah, and you're talking about, you say this one took a little longer than usual. I'm actually like, I'm looking at your discography now, and you've in times of your career have been extremely prolific. I mean, Downburst came out in 2008, followed up by Memorial Root just in 2009. I mean, you look at Ambiguity came out in 2000, Menace Mortis came out in 2001. You're a band that's no stranger for putting out records very quickly, back to back. It's like, you are writing, writing, writing.
and
Yeah,
yeah, you are always writing. You
yeah,
always collect ideas, you collect riffs, you collect ideas, but that's different from the real songwriting.
sure.
You're sitting at home and collecting ideas, then you go to the rehearsing room and then you start working on the songs.
Okay. Um, when you put this album together, were there songs you had written that you had to cut for the record?
Again, please.
I'm sorry, when you were writing this record, were there songs you had written that you had to cut that didn't make it to the final track listing?
There's always songs that don't make it to the final record.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's
How?
and I don't know why, but they also do not make it on one of the futures. So it's just, yeah, it has been
It,
written, but it's somewhere on a disc.
mhm. It is sometimes hard to let go of something like that you've created. Like, okay, this is just isn't it.
Yeah, but it's a decision of you always want to put out the best record possible with the
Yeah,
best songs on it.
for
And
sure.
when when you feel like, well, that song, it must not be a bad song, but it doesn't feel right, and it does not maybe fit to the album, to the rest of the songs. You know.
Mhm.
And so when we decide not to use it, it's no bad feelings. It's just another song that we didn't use.
Have you ever like cut a song from a record and then maybe time goes on and you revisit it and maybe perfect it and put on a new record? Has that ever happened?
And no, in almost no case, maybe a riff or a part of a song,
Okay.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. You're in Germany, and I'm a bit jealous because Germany has a very strong power metal scene, obviously, way more than here in the States. And I'm wondering, why do you think, your type of sound, your approach to metal does so well over there?
And that's a good question.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, I don't know exactly. It's maybe metal in general, I think, fits very much to the mindset of the people over here.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important reason. It's for us, like everybody's telling us, well, you're not the typical European power metal band.
Hmm.
And that's at least in parts how we see it as well, because we all loved American power metal.
Sure.
Of
Like
course,
Cirith Ungol and bands like that.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so, but for us, it was not, it never was like, uh, uh, um, we like that more and that less. It's all the music is very inspiring, but we're not that happy speed metal kind of European metal band.
Yeah.
And we never wanted it. We're not a Sword and Dragon band, so it's
Yeah.
we're heavy power metal, Brainstorm. Nowadays, it's even called dark power metal more, I think.
You still though, I mean, you say you're not that happy power metal, but you still draw inspiration from some of the like really iconic bands from your country, Halloween or Blind Guardian.
Yes, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Both bands you mentioned, that those are icons.
Yeah.
where would we be without Wall of Skulls? Where would we be without the Bard song from Blind Guardian or
Oh
whatever?
yeah.
And um, not Wall of Skulls, Walls of Jericho. John, you know what I mean?
I knew what you were referring to. I was like, Walls
Yeah,
Goes, oh, they must be talking about Walls of Jericho. Yeah, it's fine.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Or the Keeper album, or
Yeah.
the Keeper albums, or what we have now with the reunion, which is amazing.
Yeah.
You have all the Halloween lineups, with all the great singers, and they're on tour again, and they're making records. So that's unbelievable. And Blind Guardian is still going strong, and
Yeah.
of course that feels great. But there's also the thrash metal scene with bands like Creator. We always had great metal bands, but you have them as well.
Yeah.
It's music. It's the world is a stage when it comes to
Yeah.
music, and that's a great thing. It's the same language. Doesn't matter if it's thrash or power or whatever metal. So it just feels great, and we're lucky to be part of.
Yeah. The thrash scene over there. I'm glad you brought it up because I mean, you think of bands like Sodom or Tanker, Destruction. You mentioned Creator. Just the German thrash scene is. I find it there's a nastiness to it that's much more emphasized than I think other thrash scenes, and I love
Yeah,
that. Yeah,
that's pretty cool. And most of the bands come from a certain, or many of the
yeah,
bands in that come from a certain area, which seems to fit 1000% to when you come when you come out of those areas, you
yeah,
have to do thrash metal. Simple as,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. uh, and
But yeah,
that's interesting that you say that you like we're a power metal band, but there's great thrash metal bands stuff. Like sometimes it seems like power metal or thrash metal, or you think of death metal, they're kind of their own scene. They kind of don't kind of cross over with one another, but you don't see it that way at all. You think it's all one thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's for me, it's one big
Yeah.
community, and uh, even I listen to all that stuff. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. It's as long as it has guitars, uh, that's fine. And compared to maybe in the very early days where everybody seems to be competitive with each other,
Yeah.
there have been three people more on the show or whatever. It is not like that nowadays. It's
Mhm.
like we're all in one boat, and we all love the same kind of music. Doesn't matter which subgenre it is.
Yeah. I want to circle back because you mentioned the Bard song, obviously an incredible piece of music. Um, I got to see Blind Guardian. They came over to my city about a year and a half ago. It was the first time I got to see them. And when they performed the Bard song, just kind of getting to sing along with the entire audience, it's like a magical experience. Like it just, I think power metal specifically is able to create those great anthemic choruses, just kind of shout along to with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
Mhm.
That's a song you can listen to the song when they play it 100 times, but you always have goosebumps when they play it.
Yeah. Or when they did Valhalla and they do that when they take it live, when they kind of break it down into just drums and the vocals from the audience.
Yes.
That's just like they're not just a studio band. They know how to create great live music and make that experience like something unique. And
Yeah.
I always respect it from them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Um, I guess maybe more a question for you specifically, but you're in a power metal band. How did you personally discover power metal for yourself?
It's uh, more step by step, to be honest.
Yeah.
So it was for me, like for sure for many other people, AC/DC was the first thing to get in touch with hard rock music.
Hmm.
And uh, at a very early stage, I had an older cousin, and starting with 7, 8, 9 years, everything I was listening to was AC/DC.
Yeah.
And then everything fell into place step by step. That's one
Yeah.
of the first very important influences, definitely was Judas Priest.
Of course.
because of the double, yeah, of
Yeah.
the two guitars and all the. I'm old enough to say, well, I grew up with all the classics,
Yeah.
from Judas Priest, Black Sabbath, Van Halen, which is one of my biggest guitar idols,
Yeah.
and yeah, all that bands.
Yeah. You mentioned AC/DC. Of the two kind of their two kind of sacred records, are you more into Back in Black or Highway to Hell?
uh, that's. I think nobody should do a choice on those two because
Okay.
both are so iconic,
Yeah.
and the world would be so much poorer without those two albums.
Hmm.
So we're lucky to have them both.
Yeah. I I think yeah, they're both like I think Back in Black feels like the bigger, kind of more theatrical, like stadium ready album. But like I think Highway to Hell has that just like classic kind of hard rock dirtiness to it.
Yeah,
They both
absolutely.
have their place.
Yes.
Uh what about Van Halen? Are you a David Lee Roth fan or a Sammy Hagar fan?
uh, More, I'm an Eddie Van Halen fan.
Okay, there you go. That's a great answer. Yeah.
And yeah, for me, Eddie always was a huge inspiration. He was such a great guitar player,
Uh,
and um, that's definitely one of my top three guitar players ever.
mhm, mhm. Um, you mentioned Judas Priest, obviously metal gods. I also saw them on their latest tour, well, of their latest record, last year, and just it's insane how much Rob Halford can still hit those notes even now.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
I saw them so many times, and I
Yeah.
always remember a show in, was it 91 or 92 when
Yeah.
they had the Painkiller album,
Yeah.
and they had Pantera and Annihilator supporting them, which was, yeah, it just was incredible. And I think exactly 1 week later we had AC/DC and King's X,
Oh, oh, yeah.
which was, you know, what more can you wish for? And seeing them now, and they're still doing great, is phenomenal.
I gotta give it to Priest when you mentioned Painkiller. Like, there's not that many examples of bands just like, hmm, we're gonna do something completely different for this record. We are known for being this like, classic heavy metal band. What if we do something that's more like almost thrash at times, or something completely heavier than what we've done in the past, and it paid off for them. And I'm like, I I wish more bands would take risks like that because that was just like I'm so glad we have that Judas Priest album.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Uh-huh.
Absolutely. Yeah. I thought it could not get better after Defenders of the Faith.
Yeah.
And then they brought a Painkiller and it was better.
My personal favorite, but I mean, this answer could change month to month. But I like Sad Wings of Destiny. I like the kind of very early Priest stuff personally.
Yeah,
But yeah, um, yeah, metal is so good.
definitely.
Yeah. Um, do you have touring plans for this new record? You obviously say you tour every record, so I'm sure you do.
For sure,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, we immediately go. The album comes out February 28th, and we do a 10-show release show run,
Hmm.
which we not do very often. We did it the last time for the Firesoul album.
Yeah.
And but we immediately wanted to go out on stage and present it to the fans live, as it's 3.5 years now
Yeah.
since Wall of Skulls. So we didn't want to wait another 6 or 8 weeks after the release. So we do a release show run, Germany, Switzerland, and Netherlands, and then we prepare for the summer festival, and then we are working on a bigger tour in fall.
Okay. Nice. Obviously, I probably don't want to give too much for there, but do you plan on doing, you have the summer festival. Do you plan on maybe doing some other festivals, later on in the year or later on next year?
Yeah, yes, of course, of
Yeah.
course. Yeah, but we're in the booking phase, so our tour we changed booking company as well. We're on Decibel Touring now,
Yeah.
and they're doing a great job. So it should be a good live run for Plague of Reds.
Is there anywhere that you would like to play as Brainstorm that you maybe haven't played
Oh, many
yet?
places, of course, of course. It's
Yeah. Uh-huh.
our main market is Europe,
Yeah.
and we got the chance to play a few over in the United States, but we would love to play more, of course.
Yeah.
But as always, it's a question of money and a question of how plannable is this nowadays, with all the costs going up and all that stuff. But
Yeah.
uh, um, yeah, if we get the chance, we're there. We're ready. We love playing live. We love being on stage.
Yeah.
So
When you've played, this corner of the world, Canada, US, Mexico, how have you been received?
very welcome,
Okay,
very
yeah.
welcome, and that's we appreciate it so much.
Yeah.
It's uh, uh, um, how can I say that? It's when you meet people all over the world you don't know before, and you immediately connect, and that's how we feel when we wherever we play, you
Yeah.
know. And that's an important thing of that makes us going on, you know, because it's what more can you wish for, It's
Sure.
feel welcome everywhere you go. The best thing that can happen.
Yeah. Yeah, that must be a crazy feeling to like know that you put out music, you put out a record, and because it's distributed in places that you don't live, people are hearing your band and connecting, and then, even though they are so far away, and then you finally get to meet them, that must be a wild experience.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah, and I'm sure that drives many of us musicians.
Hmm.
It's it's sometimes it feels like the total opposite of the regular life, you know, where people sit next to each other and either they hate it or they ignore it,
Yeah.
you know, and there's no communication. And if everybody had more communication on a respectful level, how much better would the world be?
Yeah. That's beautiful. Well, Torsten, that is all I have to ask for you. But of course, before I let you go, I want to give the floor to you. Tell people where they can, like, find your merch, find your music, all of that. Go for it. Yeah.
And yeah, first of all, as I said, thanks for having me.
Hmm. Of
And
course. Thanks for joining me.
we're having a new album out February 28th, called Plague of Rats
Hmm.
through Raining Phoenix Music. Um, Hopefully, it's available everywhere. You can buy a record,
Yeah.
but you can even stream it or download it on all the DSPs for
Yeah.
sure. Feel free, and you're welcome. And um, we have a new single coming out next week.
Okay.
So February 14th, Valentine's Day. It's Brainstorm Day for the Shepherd Girl. Listen
Okay.
to it. We did a beautiful video for it, and of course you can find us everywhere.
Mhm.
Facebook official Brainstorm, Instagram Brainstorm official. I think it's just switched, but I'm sure you will find it when you want to see something about the band.
Okay. Cool. Well, thank you again, Torsten, for joining me, and for everyone at home. Of course, thank you to my patrons. You are the best. You keep the show running. Um, you right there watching, keep it metal. As always, my name is Maddie, aka Beavermosh, and I'm out of here. Bye.